Alright, so now I have to find out what this is about, and I go on the internet and I go to the EPA website and I go to greenhouse gases, and if you go on there, like I said, everything I did you could do. If you go on the EPA website, you go to climate change and then greenhouse gases, and it will explain to you all about the gases. The EPA says that nitrous oxide is an extremely dangerous gas for the atmosphere and our climate because it is 310 times more potent than CO2. But one of the bigger problems is it lasts in the atmosphere for approximately 114 to 120 years. So if we get to levels of nitrous oxide in the atmosphere that would affect the climate or create problems, once we realize we passed the tipping point, there's nothing we can do for over a century to start turning it around. So that means at minimum. So as I start going through all this research, then I see a report from the Pentagon, our War Department, to President Obama with an assessment on the biggest threats to our country. And again, this is all on the internet for you to look at. And their top thing that they were concerned about, even though we have ISIS and all these other major things that we're dealing with the economy, people, their top assessment of what was the biggest threat to our way of life was climate change. I mean, that's incredible, but to think that our War Department would be talking about that, but that's what their assessment is. That we could fight wars and we could fight people and we could protect ourselves, we could do everything, but when it comes to Mother Nature, nobody can control what happens there, and if we screw things up and it does go bad, there's nothing none of us could do about it. You just have to wait this process out, and who knows how long it could take. So yeah, they're saying this. Then I go on and I listen to President Obama giving speeches on climate change. Now, like I said, what I found led me into the world of climate change. I'm not here to debate climate change one bit, because all the research I did, which was a ton of it, everybody's arguing with each other. Who's right? Who's wrong? You know, is it man-made? Is it not man-made? Who's responsible? I mean, it's insane of the amount of debates and arguments that are going on between scientific community, government, private, corporations. I mean, it's nuts. So I don't want to get involved with the global warming or the climate change issue, but I'm here to show you something that, in my opinion, is a big part of it, and no one, I mean no one, is talking or showing what I'm going to explain to you. So I listened to the president talking about greenhouse gases. Then I listened to John Holdren, his top science advisor. Then I watched the UN summit, and even Leonardo DiCaprio was there, and he evidently is involved heavily with this, and he gave an amazing speech at the UN and everything. But I listened to experts from all around the world at the UN thing, and when I realized that, yeah, it is the same nitrous that we use, I said, if they're so concerned about these guys that are just huffing it and letting some in the air, how could they not be concerned over what we're doing on the racing end, and how much are we putting into the air and hurting, in other words, if they're not overlooking what they're doing, well, what did they do with what we're doing? Because like I said, and I'll be able to show you that in a second too, when you look at the amount of nitrous that the racing industry and other things have been putting into this atmosphere, it's insane amount, okay? So I started going and doing all research on all these scientists who work for the IPCC, EPA, and all these other agencies. I mean, it's a alphabet soup of who's who. And I looked at all the research they were doing. You can find online. And the IPCC just put its 5th assessment out, which is his most latest assessment. And I went through that. And then they have, like I said, you can go on to the EPA, and when you get to the nitrous oxide greenhouse gas, you're going to see a pie chart on the screen. On the pie chart, it shows you the 100% amount of nitrous oxide that's in the atmosphere. And then the pie chart breaks down who is responsible for what's up in the atmosphere. Well, when you look at the EPA's website and you look at that pie chart, they blame 75% of all the nitrous in the atmosphere on agriculture, farming, and that stuff. The other 25% is broken up between the planet produces it naturally on its own, and basically what it is it's 2 parts nitrogen, get up into the atmosphere and mix with 1 part oxygen, and it forms nitrous oxide. And the planet has a way of producing it naturally on its own, and then there's a lot of it produced through agriculture and raising livestock, and it goes on and on and on. And it explains it all to you. But nowhere in that chart did it show anything about the industry I'm talking about or anything. So I was like, I don't understand this. They're blaming 75% on agriculture, and the other 25% is broken up into other things. But where is all our nitrous? Where did they count that in? So I started now going to what they call models. This is where a group of scientists all get together, take data from all around and wherever I go, and they use all that, and they put these reports together that they refer to as models. And then they submit that to the government, and the government uses that to come up with, how to write the report to give to the people. I went through these reports. Not anybody, no one, refers to the nitrous I'm talking about in any way, shape, or form. Not one bit. So I just found this very hard to believe. So, like I said, I did an amazing amount of research trying to find anybody saying, oh yeah, well, there's a huge amount of nitrous going in the air that's hurting. There was nothing. Nothing. And I've been trying to show the government, I've been trying to show scientists, I drove 1,400 miles to go meet with one person to try to show it to them, and I'm getting shut down everywhere I go. Nobody wants to touch us, but when I show it to regular people, or people that I know that are, pretty well-to-do and pretty smart people, when I show it to them, they're like, how could they not look at it? The only ones who are giving me resistance are the company producing the gas and the government that I'm trying to get to look at this. So, if you go to YouTube and you type in a lot of nitrous purge, it will bring up a video, and that's one of the videos will say exactly that, a lot of nitrous purging. And what it is a guy took a video and made a compilation of a bunch of different cars preparing to race. Now when you do that and you watch the video, you'll see in there each of these cars spraying a very huge white mist out of the car from where the hood is. Well, what that is that's nitrous oxide that they're purging from the tank into the atmosphere. Now, when you run nitrous oxide, you know as much. Like I said, there's nothing I don't know about it. I got 22 years of dealing with it. And when you watch these cars, the way when you run nitrous, in fact, on my own site, there's a video from a few years ago where I blew my motor up on nitrous, and if you watch the video, you see my motor violently blew up and blew my hood off and threw metal all through. You know, I was lucky it didn't come through the windshield and injured me badly. Some of that metal just missed people that were on the track, and it was pretty bad. But if you go on and you watch the videos, and when you race the car with nitrous, there's things you have to do. You have to have the bottle at the right pressure, and the temperature outside or how you have the bottle affects it. So you got to either heat the bottle, cool the bottle, whatever you have to do. You want to run with the same pressure every time so you get the same response from the nitrous. If you run the nitrous at 900 psi, it's not going to give you the good hit, and it's not going to produce as good as it should. If I run it at 1100 to 1150 psi, the car performs very good for me. So you try to make sure, once you find out what is the perfect pressure for what you're doing, you have to try to make sure when you pull up to the line to race that that bottle is at the right pressure. So what most people do is they raise the pressure above what they want. And then just before they get to the line to race, they'll push the button, releasing gas and dropping the pressure. And when the pressure gets to where they want it, they stop releasing it, and now the pressure is right where they want it. The second thing that does for them is you have to purge the system before each time you use it, because if there's any air in the line, you get what they call, the companies who design it, a knock. But in reality, it's a detonation. Now, when nitrous oxide has air in it and it doesn't perform the way it's supposed to and detonates, the detonation can be from very minor to blowing a air tube off, which is no big deal, to totally destroying your car. Okay, again, you go on YouTube and look up at some of these race cars that had nitrous go wrong with them. It caught on fire, it burned the entire car down, and we're talking about some very, very, very expensive cars. So, yeah, it can be from minor to deadly. So you have to purge to make sure there is no air in that line. Otherwise, like I said, you could destroy your motor. So you're going to purge like they're doing every single time before you race. Now, nitrous is not just all over the tracks all around the country and the world, really. It's in a ton of street vehicles. Street racing around this country is huge, and I'm sure every law enforcement agency around the country would verify what I'm saying. Every city, everywhere I've ever been, has illegal street racing somewhere. So it's a huge, huge, huge industry, and many of these people run nitrous. And again, all this you can find on YouTube. So what I want to know is, if they're so concerned about the people who are huffing, polluting the planet, when you take a look at what I'm showing you, it's a pebble to a boulder. So I've been trying to get to the government and to the media or whoever to let them know somebody needs to take a look at what's going on with this. And then you add in all the illegal nitrous that's being used, which that again in itself, like I said, I had to do an investigation for myself or something, and it led me into the world of the corrupt end of nitrous, and to see how that end worked. And it also led me, into the climate change world, and when, like I said, you will find no one. And I watched some Senate hearings and congressional hearings on all this. And what they're starting to say is that they want the agriculture and the farmers to start cutting down on the fertilizer. This is all in these reports I was going through. You can find all this, everything I'm telling you, you can find on YouTube. That's where I found it. Between the internet and YouTube, I found everything. I wish I really knew how to work these things, because I know how to do just what I'm doing, and that's it. If I really knew how to work one of these things and do the stuff, my research will be tenfold what I have. But what I have is overwhelming already. And I'm assuring you, there are so many more other ways nitrous is getting put in the atmosphere too, that's not being mentioned in these reports. So what I'm trying to say is, the government has totally overlooked a huge problem, and they're blaming somebody else for it. So I need your help in getting the government or the media to listen to what I'm talking to them about and taking a serious look at this. Because even though I'm not getting into the climate change or the global warming thing, it doesn't take a genius to see that something is going wrong. I mean, everything is changing. Everything is increasing. Everything is intensifying. Have we had bad storms in the past? Yes. But they're coming like crazy, and things are happening. So I don't need to be a scientist to know that something is going on with our atmosphere or our climate, or, you know, and could that affect the entire way of life or the entire world? Of course it can. Nobody can take on Mother Nature. Every single weapon we have on this planet would make a dent in the power Mother Nature has. Okay? We can't take that on. And if we're doing something that's creating a problem, we're letting our kids, our grandkids, the next generations down. Because from what I see, from all these research I did, many of these people say we are at the tipping point and we are in a critical situation. I'm talking about the President of the United States, Barack Obama, our president, other world leaders. If you go watch these videos, like I said, I didn't know all this because that wasn't my thing. I wasn't into all that. My research took me there. And once I had to do all I had to do and then put the amount of time I did in, by the time I really understood this thing, I was just totally blown away. And I believe they're right. You know, that something is going on. I don't need to be an expert. I'm not going to agree one side or the other. But I'm concerned about what is going on. And if nitrous is so deadly as they say, and like they say CO2, it's CO2, nitrous, and methane. CO2 is the number one, and that's because there's a huge abundance of it. But nitrous, they're saying, has become a very big concern because, like I said, it's 310 times more potent than CO2. So for 1 pound of nitrous, that's 310 pounds of CO2. CO2 doesn't last that long in the atmosphere, but nitrous lasts 114 to 120 years in the atmosphere. So nitrous is really the big danger because of the life expectancy of it. And like I said, if we do get to a tipping point that we realize it's too much, even if you cut every single drop off immediately, you're looking at over a century before it starts reversing in any way. You cannot take that chance. The president said the same thing, that there are things that need to be done, and that's because we cannot afford to take a chance with it. And he was referring to what I'm talking about. But again, not about the industry I'm talking about. How much pollutants are these companies allowing to go into the air? When you go watch these videos, like I said, when you watch that video with the car and then you see how it purges, and you see all the different ones, that's just one video of hundreds of thousands. You could spend months watching these videos and never watch the same video twice. YouTube and the internet will prove and provide all the evidence I need to show you that there is a ton of this gas being put in the atmosphere, and these companies are turning a blind eye for profit. Why do I say that? Because there's no way you could tell me that these companies who designed these systems and designed the gas and everything to make this work, with the amount of scientists and the amount of people that were involved with this, you cannot tell me that they never came across that nitrous oxide is a greenhouse gas. Yeah, I never heard it, but I wasn't doing any research on it either, or now I heard it. But these companies are getting away with murder. And the government says it's going to start some kind of tax some kind of carbon tax, that they're going to go after the people who are putting the gas into the atmosphere. Well, if you look at the EPA pie chart on it, they believe 75% of this on agriculture. If they take into what I'm talking in the calculations and doing everything, wow, it's going to change that percentage for them insanely. Because like I said, if you didn't count something in, then how could your figures be right? So this is what I'm trying to get them to look at, because pretty soon, if you watch some of these congressional hearings and what's going on, there's a lot of talk of starting this carbon tax and start penalizing these people. And the funny thing is, these companies that are putting it in the air, where I'm talking about, won't get stuck paying anything for any, the other people are going to pay for all the gas they're putting in the atmosphere, because again, nobody's looking at what they're doing. So we need to get this out. So please, pass this on and get people to support me in this, because it's going to help everybody, not just me. And once the experts that know what I'm talking about start looking at this, they'll see I'm right. They'll see that everything I'm saying is exactly right. And that is, just in a quick nutshell, that no one is counting in the nitrous oxide that I'm talking about. And like I said, you can find this all on YouTube and the internet. Just start looking at the racing with nitrous. You will spend all the time you can. I mean, you couldn't spend enough time to watch the amount of videos there. And that's just the ones that are posted. That has nothing to do. Believe me, there are hundreds of thousands of people, and if these companies were subpoenaed on their records, we would know exactly how many systems were sold. And the other company who makes the gas, we would know just how much gas they sold to that industry. And like I said, that's not including the other end, which is the illegal end of the people using it illegally. And that is a huge, huge, huge one itself too. By the time you start figuring this all in, I think we're putting much more of this gas in the atmosphere than they think. The other important thing, oh my God, I forget this. The other thing is, the nitrous oxide that they're referring to, coming through agriculture and everything, is a process it goes through to become nitrous oxide. The nitrous oxide that I'm talking about has already been filtered and purified by the company. And what they do is, when they run the product to make it, they always try to get 99.99, because they use it for in hospitals, dentists, and everything, for anesthesia, and it is a very good anesthetic. It does help a lot. I've had nitrous oxide in the dentist's office, so yeah, I think it's a very big, because I have a phobia of needles, and when they gave me the gas, I was able to just let them do what they had to do, and I wasn't scared. So that way, yes, so they always aim for the high purity, but it sometimes falls short. If it falls short, it cannot be put in the medical. Then the next thing it would go into is food grade, which is used to fill whipped cream cans. It's used as a propellant to push. And the potato chip bags and different other kinds of bags, food products. it's put in them to keep everything fresh and everything, and it's legal for humans to consume it, so it's food grade. Anything below human consumption goes into a whole different category because it can't be used for human consumption. Then it would go into for the racing industry. They use it in lavatories for freezing tissue. There are other uses, and the ones who fall short for human consumption get used in all these other avenues of business. When you start looking at all that, it's going to blow your mind on the amount of nitrous that's being put in the atmosphere. And like I said, this nitrous has been purified. It's not natural process through, reaching the atmosphere. As soon as they hit that button, they are putting 99% pure nitrous oxide directly into the atmosphere. Which, to me, if that is much more potent than the other one, then this thing could be maybe 500 times more potent than CO2. Because they're doing it based on the nitrous that forms from natural and man-made that way. They're not counting on nitrous with the purity I'm talking about. So I need you to listen to this and push this on, and please help me get this out. Because to be honest with you, the industries that I'm going against for this, or I should say the one industry, the company with the gas, they are aware of what I'm doing, and I am under attack. They have opened up a can of whoop ass on me, like my other videos would explain it. But anyway, I don't want to get into it. I'm not here about that right now. Because regardless of what happens to me with that part of it, that has nothing to do with what I uncovered. What I uncovered is critical and needs to be dealt with. As far as the other thing, that's personal. I'll deal with that on my own personal way. But this evidence I uncovered must get put out. So please, click subscribe, pass it on, and help me help you. Thank you. And hopefully you'll find a little slice of happiness in these hard times. May God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.